there, gardener. I'm so excited because today I'm harvesting my very first tomatoes from the highly controversial world's first all purple tomato inside and out, simply called the purple tomato. I'm going to bring you along every step of the way from sowing the seeds to planting and now harvesting with a taste test and review of this unique and one-of-a-kind purple tomato. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara. I've been gardening all of my life and I'm a professional seed and plant nursery. I love to share my knowledge and teach others how to garden and grow food. So you've come to the right place if you want to improve your gardening skills. I'm going to start with showing you how I grew my purple tomatoes from seed, my thoughts and how it compares to regular tomatoes. Then we will harvest and taste them. Lastly, I want to end this video with a discussion on genetically modified seed, or GMO, and why I decided to grow this, because personally, like a lot of other gardeners, I'm very anti-GMO. I welcome you to share your opinion and provide other research-based information, as I learn a lot from your comments and so do a lot of my viewers. So please, let's exchange information, not fight or debate about it. Please respect everyone's opinions. I honor your opinion on the matter even if we don't agree. So this is the plant that has caused such a stir within the gardening community. You may have heard about this tomato, as its release in the fall of 2023 made headlines and caused much debate in the world of gardening. This is the world's first tomato that has purple skin and purple interior flesh. It is an indeterminate cherry-sized tomato. Up until now, the darkest, most purple tomato was an heirloom cultivar named Black Beauty, which I also grow in my garden. Black Beauty has a very dark, almost black colored skin due to high amounts of anthocyanins, which is an antioxidant. However, when you slice into it, the flesh is a dark reddish color. It is not purple throughout. The purple tomato was bred by the Norfolk Healthy Produce Company. They are a team of scientists that breed various edible crops to have higher nutritional content. They bioengineered this tomato by taking genes from a purple snapdragon flower and inserted them into a tomato. This caused the tomato to have purple coloration inside and out. This kind of genetic manipulation means that the purple tomato is genetically modified. This is not the same as an heirloom or hybrid seed. These are completely different things. I will have to make a video discussing the differences, so more to come. Up until now, GMO seed was highly regulated and only available to large-scale commercial farms. Think commercial corn and soybean farms. Regular people like you and me could not simply buy these seeds. So no worries, you're not going to accidentally buy GMO seed from a nursery or online seed catalog, and nothing that I sell on my website is GMO, just saying. I sowed the seeds in solo cups about 8 weeks before my last spring frost date. I put the solo cups over heat mats to speed up germination. They germinated in about 5 days. As soon as they germinated, I put them under grow lights. I really like these Mars Hydro 3x3 grow lights. They help my tomato seedlings grow very quickly. Once the first set of true leaves grow, I start fertilizing with Fox Farms Grow Big liquid fertilizer. In 8 weeks, my purple tomato seedling looked like this, and it's time to plant. If you want more detailed step-by-step instructions on how I sow seeds for all of my tomatoes, check out my How to Sow Tomato Seeds tutorial, which I will link below. I planted the purple tomato in a spot that gets full sun, as in 8 hours or more per day, in a 10-gallon sized grow bag that I filled with just compost. I added Espoma Tomato Tone fertilizer, azomite, rock dust, crab meal, and dino mycorrhizal inoculant into the planting hole. These are the products I like to use when transplanting tomato plants. I have a YouTube video tutorial that provides more details on how I transplant tomatoes and why I use these products, which I will also link below in the description. Once I see new growth, I start fertilizing with a 1/4 cup of Espoma brand tomato tone. I repeat this every 2 weeks until I see the first set of flowers forming on the plants. At that point, I switch to fertilizing with a high potassium and phosphorus fertilizer that supports flower and fruit production. I continue to fertilize every 2 to 3 weeks, alternating between Espoma tomato tone and the flower booster high potassium and phosphorus fertilizer. I have a tutorial that goes into details about my tomato fertilizer schedule, which I will link below if you want to learn more about that. So I wanted to quickly just summarize how I grew the seed and planted this in case you wanted to copy that at home. So let's talk a little bit about what I notice in terms of growth and how this compares to growing regular tomatoes. Since this is a dark colored tomato, I expected it to do pretty well here in Florida. It's really hot, but typically the darker colored fruits and veggies do a lot better than the standard colors. So I kind of already had an opinion or idea that this would really just take off and thrive in my garden, but it really hasn't. It's just okay. The leaves are kind of on the thin side, so are the stems. It's not like the most vigorous looking tomato plant compared to a lot of the heirlooms that I have growing just on the other side of this garden. As far as disease resistance, it seems to be on par with everything else that I grow. A lot of these leaves have blight and spot already on them. For that, I just spray with 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide per gallon of water to treat all the leaf diseases. I haven't sprayed in a while, so it's looking kind of rough, but it just seems in general it experiences the diseases just about the same as any other tomato I would grow. As far as trellising, this is a big like T-post trellis right here behind me. I buy rolls of 4 foot wide fencing because it's kind of hard for me to fit a cattle panel trellis in my car, I can definitely fit a roll of fencing a little bit better. So I just zip tied a piece of that fencing onto these T-posts. And then as this plant grew, I just kind of tucked the vines into the squares and spaces of the trellis just to keep it together. Since it's a cherry tomato, I don't prune. I don't prune any of my cherry tomatoes. They tend to ramble and grow wild anyways. You don't really need to stay on top of pruning like you would if it was an indeterminate or something like that. I do prune off heavily diseased leaves though. So there are a couple here. They tend to be like the bottommost leaves that are heavily diseased with just about everything you can think of, but that's totally normal and expected when you're growing tomatoes in Florida. At the time of filming this video, it is the month of June, which is the very end of my tomato season. The heat comes through and just wipes them all out. They cannot live through that. So I'm not surprised that it just doesn't look that great. These tomatoes did form pretty decent clusters though, as in the entire cluster with flowers, almost every single one did pollinate and fill up with tomatoes. As far as color, I mean, these certainly are very dark in color, but they look more like a dark brown than a purple to me. And again, that could just be growing in the extreme heat of Florida right now. Like every single day is 95 or above already in June. So I'm not sure if that's what triggered it to be more of a brown color, or it could just have been the genetics and chance of the one plant that I grew. I grew only one plant this season because I got the seeds in early spring, and spring isn't like the best tomato season for me. It's actually fall through winter. So I didn't want to use up all my seeds. So I just hurried up, planted one. This is what I got. So I'm not sure if this dark brown color is more just the genetics of this one plant or maybe the high heat and stress situation. I'm definitely going to try growing it again in fall just to see if there's a different outcome. But it definitely is very dark. Like I mentioned before, I grow the Black Beauty tomato, which gets almost black. And the more that the skin of the tomato is exposed to the sun, the darker that it gets. It really develops more of those anthracyanins that give it that dark color. So these seem to do the same thing. The tomatoes start out very light green. They start turning kind of a yellow color, and then they finish off like this deep, dark, brownish purple color. This is like a large size cherry tomato in my opinion. So let's cut into it and taste it. All right, so after cutting into this, I'm actually very surprised. It looks very deep, dark purple. I don't know how well you guys can see that here on the camera. It's like a violet, dark purple color. All right, so it is really cool and it is purple inside just as promised. But does it taste good? Let's see. Wow, I'm actually really surprised. I've grown hundreds of tomatoes at this point, and I have tons of videos tasting them and the commentary about them. So trust me when I say something tastes really good. It's very savory and it's pretty sweet. I'm actually kind of surprised. Most of the time, the darker color types of veggies, purple or black or something like that, have more of like an earthy type of flavor, not so much sweetness. For example, black carrots are more earthy, not as sweet as like the orange carrots. But this has a pretty good amount of sweetness to it. If I was tasting this blind, I definitely would have thought it's just any regular kind of sweet cherry tomato. So far, I'm pretty impressed. It looks cool, it tastes good, and apparently has higher nutritional value because it has higher amounts of antioxidants, which gives it that purple color. All right, so a pretty cool tomato. Now I'm gonna discuss what are GMOs, why many of us, including myself, don't like them, and why I made an exception to grow this one. I'll be honest, right up front, I do not like, nor do I want to grow GMO seeds, but I made an exception with this tomato, and let me explain why. The issue I have with GMOs is, one, no one really knows if GMOs make a negative impact on our health. We simply have not been growing and consuming them long enough to really understand the effects of eating them. And I do feel this way even with this purple tomato, which, by the way, snapdragon flowers are edible. So to my logic, it seems pretty safe, but in all honesty, who really knows if this combination of genetics is good for us? It could be great. It could have a very positive impact by contributing something healthy to my diet in the form of higher antioxidants, or it could not. It could have some bad effects. No one knows for sure. It is that uncertainty that makes a lot of people anti-GMO and anti this purple tomato, and I totally get it and agree. The other main issue, number two, is that the majority of GMOs are genetically modified to be resistant to heavy industrial chemical-full pesticides and herbicides. These crops, like corn for example, are grown on millions of acres of land that are doused in pesticides and herbicides to make it cheaper to grow these things. So corn is genetically modified to not die if sprayed with these chemicals. Only the weeds and insects around them will die. This heavily pollutes the land, destroys ecosystem, pollutes our waterways, depletes soil fertility, and the list goes on. I personally do not use any herbicides or pesticides in my garden, except for a few organic sprays like BT, for example. That's the decision I've made for my garden, which could differ from yours, and that's okay. The other thing to note is that the purple tomato is patented, and that's a whole other controversy. Like, why are we patenting food? I believe we should all be able to grow whatever we want freely, share seeds and plants plants without rules or regulation. That's like putting rules on the air we breathe or water we drink. I understand why this company patented. I mean, they probably spent a lot of money trying to develop this, but you know, it just doesn't sit right with me. And this is not the only plant that is patented. There are tons of other plants, flowers, etc. that are patented. I'm in the nursery trade business, so putting patents on plants is not new. There's a lot of plants that I just can't propagate or sell seeds on my own. If I wanted to sell that thing, I would have to buy it from an authorized seller that actually pays royalties back to the company or whoever that bred the plant or seed and has the patent on it. The Norfolk Healthy Produce Company is selling the seed to the public. At the time of this video, one packet was $20, which is crazy and definitely the most expensive seed I have ever bought. Which brings to mind the whole debate of why do we have to pay so much for healthy food? You can grow this in your garden and save seed to plant again and again as long as it's for personal use. You can't sell or profit off the seed or plants. Like I cannot sell seeds or plants for this on my website because of the patent. I will put a link in the description below to Norfolk if you want to buy some seeds. There are many more reasons why there is so much hate towards GMOs. These are just my top reasons. I decided to make an exception and grow the purple tomato because it was genetically modified with the goal of containing more nutrition instead of resisting pesticides and herbicides, etc. So it caught my attention for this reason. Tomatoes are my favorite thing to grow, so yeah, I'm curious about this one. I am growing this tomato in total isolation though. I don't want its genetic material, as in pollen, to mix with my other tomato plants. So it's growing in this grow bag at the edge of my garden. I put organza baggies over the flower clusters before they open up and bloom to make sure the pollen doesn't spread. Once I see tomatoes forming, I remove the bags. All right, so thank you for coming along with me as I grew out this tomato and just checking out my thoughts and experience with it. This was a fun experiment and I actually really like the flavor, so I do think I will continue growing it until I run out of seeds, more or less. If you have grown this tomato before, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. There's not a lot of information about it so far. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give me a big thumbs up. That helps my channel out more than you know. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.